In that year, she'd sat on my couch. She'd borrowed my clothes. She'd cried to me about her dating life. She'd watched movies with us and laughed at our jokes. I swallowed. And the baby? He glanced away. She just found out. It's early. I waited. And what's your plan? He leaned forward slightly. We're going to figure it out. Co-parent. You and I can adjust. Or we can separate. Separate. So he was already there. He watched my face for a reaction. When I didn't give him one, he smirked faintly. See? This is why you're successful. You're practical. Practical. He thought my calm was surrender. He didn't realize my calm was calculation. The next morning, Vivian called. I let it ring until the last second, then answered softly. Hello. Her voice cracked. Please don't hate me. I stared out the kitchen window. The sky was grey. Everything outside looked ordinary, like the world had decided not to acknowledge what happened. I already do, I said simply. She gasped like I'd slapped her. I didn't mean for this. It wasn't supposed to. To what? I asked. To have consequences. She started crying. Loud, messy, desperate sobs that sounded like theater. We fell in love. I almost laughed again. You fell in love, I repeated slowly, while sitting at my dinner table, while holding my hand through hard weeks, while telling me you'd always protect me. I didn't think it would happen, she whispered. And then it did. I kept my voice calm. When did it start? Silence. Then, last year. My nails dug into my palm. Why? I asked. Her voice went small. You had everything. The house. The career. The marriage. I was always second. She was telling me she wanted to take something that proved she could win. Then she said the line that made my stomach turn. I assumed you'd understand. You're strong. You always land on your feet. I didn't respond. She sniffed. Can we talk? In person? I paused, then said, yes. Because I wanted to see her face. And because I wanted her to believe she still had access to me. Before I ended the call, she added softly, he says you'll be okay. He says you're not the type to fight. Not the type to fight. I smiled faintly. They didn't know what type I was. That day, I opened my laptop and created a folder. I named it Timeline. Inside it, I created subfolders. Finances. Messages. Photos. Legal. Property. Witnesses. I didn't do it with rage. I did it like preparing for a presentation. Because I'd learned something in my career. When you want to be taken seriously, you bring receipts. I pulled bank statements. At first, everything looked normal. Mortgage, bills, groceries, normal life. Then I saw it. A recurring transfer. Small, almost invisible. Every month. Same account. Same day. I clicked the details. The account wasn't one of ours. It was his. A separate savings account I didn't know existed. I sat back in my chair. He didn't just betray me in bed. He built a life outside me. Quietly. Methodically. Like a man preparing an exit strategy. So I decided, I would prepare a better one. I found the folder of house documents in the drawer where we kept important things. He'd never bothered to read them. He'd always told me, you're better with paperwork. I flipped through and saw what Andrea later called my golden clause. The house was in my name. Not because I demanded it, because my deposit, my inheritance, had made it possible. And because my father, long before he passed, had insisted on protecting me. There was a clause about marital contributions and ownership percentage. And there was something else. A note from the lawyer at the time, ensure any future refinancing requires your sole consent. I stared at that line until the letters blurred. Marcus had no idea the house wasn't a 50-50 fantasy. He thought he'd walk away with half. He thought wrong. Over the next week, I became what they expected. I smiled. I cooked. I spoke softly. I answered messages from people asking if I was okay with, I'm taking it day by day. He relaxed. He started talking freely, careless now that he believed I was too wounded to be dangerous. One night, while scrolling on his phone, he said, "You know, if you don't make this messy, we can do this respectfully." If I could rewind time, I'd go back to the moment Marcus lifted his glass and smiled at me like I was the luckiest woman alive. The restaurant was warm and loud, clinking glasses, soft music, people laughing over wine. Our friends had gathered to celebrate my promotion. I'd worked 3 years for that role. Late nights. Missed weekends. Sacrifices nobody noticed because I was the strong one, and strong women don't ask for applause. Marcus sat at the head of the table, hand resting on my chair like he owned the space around me. Across from him sat Vivian, my sister in everything but blood, wearing a pale dress that didn't fit the way it normally would. I noticed it but didn't name it yet. He stood and tapped his glass. "Everyone, I know tonight is about her, and it should be. She's incredible. She holds everything together." People smiled. I smiled back, fighting tears of happiness. Then he leaned forward. "But life has a way of expanding when you least expect it. I want to share something big." Vivian's eyes flicked to mine, then away. Her hand moved to her stomach. My body went cold before my mind caught up. "I'm going to be a father," Marcus announced. The room erupted. Someone squealed. Someone clapped. I didn't move. My smile felt stapled on. Because he wasn't looking at me. He was looking at her. If he's going to turn my pain into a performance, I'll direct the show. She couldn't fake surprise. She just sat there, lips parted, eyes wet, hand on the small secret under her dress. "She's pregnant," Marcus added casually. I waited for someone to ask who. I waited for someone to look at me and realize I wasn't laughing. But nobody did. Vivian finally raised her eyes, shaking, guilty, and said softly, "It's mine." Marcus didn't correct her. He smiled like the final puzzle piece had clicked into place. The room went silent like someone had pulled the plug on sound. I heard my own breath. I heard blood pounding behind my ears. "I wanted you to hear it here," he said gently. "With people who love us. So we can move forward like adults." Move forward. Like what I was watching wasn't my marriage being executed in public. I didn't cry. I stood up, still holding my glass, and said quietly, "Congratulations." Then I turned and walked out. Behind me, I heard Marcus laugh under his breath, like he'd just won something. I made it to the bathroom before my legs gave out. The door clicked shut and the restaurant noise disappeared, leaving only fluorescent buzzing and distant water rushing. I gripped the sink until my knuckles turned white, staring at my reflection. My face looked normal. That was the most frightening part. No collapse. No mascara streaks. No screaming. Just me, staring back like a woman who'd stepped out of her body. Then nausea hit. I dropped to my knees and threw up until my throat burned. My hands shook. My heart raced like I'd run miles. When it stopped, I sat on the cold tile floor, back against the wall, pressing my palm over my mouth so nobody would hear the sound trying to escape. Not grief. Not a sob. A laugh. It came up ugly and sharp, because I realized something that made the room tilt. He did that on purpose. He didn't confess privately. He confessed publicly because he wanted control. He wanted to force me into a role, the calm wife who handled it well, or the hysterical wife who proved she deserved what happened. I wiped my mouth and stood. I looked at myself again. If he's going to turn my pain into a performance, I'll direct the show. I didn't return to the table. I walked out the back entrance and ordered a car home. On the drive, my phone buzzed with messages. Friends confused, checking in, asking if I was okay. Then his message came through. "Don't be dramatic. Come back. We need to talk." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I typed, "Okay." I didn't mean okay as in I accept it. I meant okay as in, I'm awake now. When I got home, the house was silent in that way that makes every corner feel like it's listening. He walked in 30 minutes later like a man returning from a meeting he'd won. No shame. No fear. Just annoyance. He tossed his keys in the bowl and sighed. "You embarrassed me." I blinked slowly. I embarrassed you. He rubbed his forehead like I was exhausting. Walking out like that. People noticed. I felt something inside me detach, like a button popping off a shirt. What did you expect me to do? I asked quietly. He shrugged. Be mature. We're adults. Things happen. Things happen. He sat on the sofa like he owned it. Like he owned me. I didn't plan it, he said. I said nothing. I just watched him. He filled the silence with words. You've been busy. Distant. Always working. She was around. She understood me. There it was. The blame, placed gently in my lap like a gift. I nodded once. How long? His eyes narrowed. Why does that matter? Answer the question. My voice didn't rise. It didn't shake. That seemed to irritate him more. He exhaled. A year. Maybe a little more. A year. I looked up from folding laundry. Respectfully, I echoed. He nodded. I mean, nobody has to lose everything. We can sell the house. Split things. Move on. Sell the house. Split things. He was already dividing my life like it was his to distribute. I kept my face neutral. Okay. He leaned back, satisfied. That night, I waited until he slept. Then I took his phone from the bedside table and used the passcode I'd watched him type 100 times. I didn't search like a jealous wife. I searched like an investigator. And what I found wasn't just an affair. It was planning. In his messages with her, there was a thread that made my skin crawl. Her, are you sure she won't freak out? Him, she won't. She cares about appearances too much. Her, what about the house? Him, we'll force a sale. She won't afford it alone. Her, and if she fights? Him, she won't. She's not built for war. I stared at the screen. Not built for war. Then I scrolled up and saw something worse. A message from him, months ago, after I'd received my promotion offer. Him. Perfect. With her new salary, refinancing will be easier. Refinancing. So that's what it was. He didn't celebrate my promotion. He saw it as a tool. My stomach turned. I screenshot everything. Sent it to myself. Saved it. Then I put his phone back and lay down beside him like the woman he thought he knew. But inside, I was already gone. I met Andrea in a quiet office across town. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I slid a folder across the table. Bank statements. Screenshots. House documents. Messages. Andrea read in silence. The longer she read, the calmer she became, like a doctor recognizing a familiar diagnosis. When she finally looked up, she said, "He's been diverting marital funds." I nodded. Yes. And he's been using money connected to your inheritance. Yes. She folded her hands. This isn't just betrayal. This is financial misconduct. I blinked slowly. What does that mean? She took a breath. It means he's not in the position he thinks he's in. And it means you have options. I leaned forward. I want consequences. She studied me. Then you'll need patience and precision. I almost smiled. Patience and precision were my native language. The invite arrived as a group message, like an announcement. A baby shower. Her baby shower. With Marcus's surname typed proudly at the bottom, celebrating the arrival of our little miracle. I stared at that word, miracle, like it might start bleeding. Then the message followed. Her, I'd really love for you to come. It would mean a lot. We can show everyone we're mature. Mature. That word again. Marcus walked into the kitchen and glanced at my phone. You should go, he said casually. It'll make you look good. Make me look good. So they wanted me there as proof of their innocence. A prop. I looked up slowly. Okay. His eyebrows lifted. Pleased. I typed. Of course. I'll be there. Then I went back to Andrea and said, we need to time this perfectly. Andrea helped me prepare documents, notices, injunctions, formal letters. We drafted everything. We didn't send anything yet. She told me, do not warn him. I said, I won't. I requested my full credit file. I checked our mortgage details. I discovered he'd made inquiries about refinancing, without my consent. He'd been testing doors. And because of the clause my father insisted on, every door stayed locked. Andrea smiled faintly when she saw it. This, she said, tapping the page, is why people should read what they sign. I thought of Marcus calling me practical. He wasn't wrong. He just never realized practical women don't panic. They plan. In the days leading to the baby shower, I practiced a smile in the mirror. Not because I wanted to look unbothered. Because I wanted to look believable. I did my hair. I wore soft colors. I answered messages from friends with calm phrases, I'm managing. It's hard, but I'm okay. I'm focusing on healing. Vivian sent me heart emojis, like she still owned my loyalty. Marcus started acting generous, like a man trying to be remembered as not that bad. He bought groceries. He offered to help around the house. He called me sweetheart again, as if betrayal had reset the clock. One night he said, you'll be fine. You always come out on top. He meant it as a compliment. I heard it as a challenge. The day before the baby shower, I sat in my office at home with a stack of envelopes. Each envelope had a name. Marcus's mother. Marcus's sister. Two friends who had been loud supporters of the affair in whispered conversations. A few people whose opinion mattered in his world. Inside each envelope was a different document. Not gossip. Not drama. Facts. A timeline of financial transfers. Screenshots of messages. A legal letter outlining diversion of funds. A notice of my legal position regarding the house. Andrea had warned me about defamation. We stuck to truth and documentation. Nothing emotional. Just evidence. It was clinical. And it was devastating. I sealed the last envelope and sat back, hand steady. Then Marcus walked in and saw the stack. What's that? He asked. I smiled. Just something I'm preparing for tomorrow. He chuckled. See. You're handling it well. He kissed my forehead like I was a child. And that was the moment I knew the ending would feel like justice. Because arrogance is always the crack where consequences enter. The baby shower was held in a rented hall decorated in pastel balloons and fake flowers. Vivian's mother hugged her proudly. Her cousins took photos. People laughed like nothing ugly had happened. Marcus walked in with his hand on her lower back. My stomach tightened. Then I entered behind them. The room faltered. People didn't know whether to greet me or pretend I wasn't there. I smiled like a woman with nothing to hide. Her face went pale when she saw me, but she forced a grin. You came? Yes, I said. Wouldn't miss it. Marcus leaned close and whispered, don't do anything embarrassing. I looked at him. I won't. The games began. The gifts were opened. Then the host announced, we're going to do speeches. Marcus stood up first. I just want to say, I'm grateful for everyone here. Life changes, but family is family. He said it like I was still included. Then the host turned to me with an awkward smile. Do you want to say anything? The room held its breath. I stood. I walked to the front. And I smiled. I do, I said. I held up an envelope. I brought party favors, I said lightly. A few people laughed nervously. Marcus frowned. What is that? I ignored him. I want to thank everyone for being here to celebrate new life, I continued. And I want to thank Marcus and Vivian for showing me something important. Her hand flew to her stomach. Marcus stepped forward. Stop. I tilted my head. I'm not shouting. I'm not crying. I'm just sharing. I began handing out envelopes. People accepted them like confused children. Marcus grabbed my wrist. His fingers tightened. I looked at him calmly and said softly, if you touch me again, you'll regret it in writing. He released me like he'd been burned. Then I turned back to the room. In those envelopes, I said, are documents. Evidence. Facts. I won't be debating feelings today. Someone opened theirs. A gasp. Another person opened theirs. A sharp inhale. Vivian's mother blinked rapidly, reading, hands shaking. Marcus's face changed. Not guilt. Fear. Because he recognized his own messages. His own numbers. His own lies. He lunged toward the envelopes, trying to snatch them back, but it was too late. Truth had already been distributed. He tried to laugh. This is ridiculous, she's overreacting. I raised my voice slightly, just enough to cut through his. I'm not overreacting. I'm documenting. I held up my phone. These are screenshots of you discussing how to force a sale of my house. How to take half of what you didn't build. How to use my promotion to refinance. Marcus's sister stared at him like she didn't recognize him. Marcus's mother's mouth opened and closed. Vivian's mother looked at her daughter, then at her stomach, then at Marcus, like the baby suddenly felt heavier. Vivian started crying loudly, performing again. I didn't want this, she sobbed. I didn't. I cut her off with a calm sentence. You wanted it enough to do it. The room went silent. Marcus's face tightened into anger. You can't do this here. I smiled, finally letting a sliver of truth into my expression. You did it here. I'm just finishing what you started. Andrea had sent a representative, quiet, professional, who stepped forward now and introduced herself. She didn't threaten. She didn't shout. She simply said, you have been formally notified of improper financial transfers and potential misappropriation of funds. Further contact should be through legal channels. Marcus's jaw clenched. This is a baby shower. The representative nodded. Yes. And you chose this venue for your confession. So the venue is appropriate for consequences. That sentence landed like a slap. People started stepping away from him, like misconduct was contagious. Vivian clutched her belly and sank into a chair. Marcus looked around for an ally and found none. And I realized something quietly, privately. He thought he was the main character. But the room had finally seen the story correctly. That night, he came home furious. He slammed the door so hard the hallway frame rattled. You humiliated me. I stood in the kitchen, calm. You humiliated me first. This isn't over, he spat. You can't freeze accounts. You can't keep the house. I looked at him. I can. His face twisted, struggling to compute a reality where I wasn't pliable. Then the anger shifted. Begging. I made a mistake, he said, voice softer, as if softness could erase a year. We can fix this. Don't do this. I watched him carefully. This wasn't remorse. This was panic. He didn't miss me. He missed his plan. I said quietly, you didn't make a mistake. You made a strategy. I made a better one. His eyes widened. You're going to ruin me. I stared back. No. Your choices are doing that. I'm just not cushioning the fall. The next morning, he switched tactics. He approached me with a cold smile. If you keep pushing, you'll regret it. I raised an eyebrow. Is that a threat? He leaned closer. People won't believe you. They'll think you're bitter. You're too calm, nobody will sympathize. You'll look calculating. I didn't flinch. Good. His smile faltered. Then he said something that made my blood chill, and if you don't cooperate, I'll make this ugly. I pulled out my phone and pressed record. What did you say? I asked gently. He blinked. What? Say it again, I said softly. He stared at me, then his eyes darted to my phone. His face drained of color. For the first time since the restaurant, he looked unsure. He backed away slowly. And I knew. He realized I wasn't reacting emotionally anymore. I was collecting. His workplace received the documents first. Not because I wanted revenge through embarrassment, though that was a side effect. Because he worked in a field where integrity mattered. The legal notice went through formal channels. He called me from his car, voice shaking. What did you do? I answered calmly. I protected myself. They served me at work, he hissed. People saw. You served me at dinner, I replied. People saw. Silence. Then, quieter, please. Think about what you're doing. I thought about it. I thought about every time I defended him. Every time I told people he was a good man. Every time I trusted Vivian with my vulnerabilities. And I said, I'm thinking. That's why this is happening. Vivian showed up at my door 2 days later. Her face was swollen from crying. Her hair was messy. She looked like a person whose fantasy had been exposed to daylight. She whispered, "He's acting like I trapped him." I didn't answer. She stepped forward. He's telling people I seduced him. He's saying he never wanted this baby. My stomach tightened. Not from sympathy. From recognition. Of course he was rewriting the story. That's what selfish men do when consequences arrive. They turn everyone else into villains so they can remain the hero. She began sobbing. He said once he's done with you, he's done with me too. He said I'm going to ruin his life. I looked at her calmly. You helped him plan to ruin mine. She flinched. I made a mistake, she pleaded. I nodded once. Yes. She waited for comfort. I gave her truth instead. You didn't just betray me. You announced it like you won a prize. Her shoulders shook. Then she whispered, "What do you want from me?" I leaned slightly closer. Nothing. I don't want you in my life at all. And for the first time, her crying stopped, because she realized there would be no forgiveness to use as a shield. Over the next month, reality dismantled them. His hidden savings account was scrutinized. His transfers became evidence. He had to repay funds that weren't his. The lifestyle he maintained, cars, trips, nice restaurants, collapsed. He called me one evening, voice flat, exhausted. "You're enjoying this?" I said honestly, "No." He sounded surprised. "I'm enjoying something else," I added. "What?" "Peace." Silence. Then his voice cracked, bitter. "She's pregnant. Do you understand what you've done?" I answered softly, "Do you understand what you did?" He didn't. Not really. Because people like him don't measure harm unless it harms them. I changed the locks. Not dramatically. Not out of spite. Legally. Quietly. When he came home and his key didn't work, he stood on the doorstep like a stranger. He pounded. "Open the door." I stood behind it and said, through the wood, "You don't live here anymore. I'm your husband." I replied, calm as ice, "No. You're just a man who used to live in my house." His breathing turned ragged. "You can't do this." I didn't raise my voice. I already did. When he finally walked away, I sat on the stairs and exhaled like I'd been holding my breath for a year. Then I stood, wiped my cheeks, and made tea. Because for the first time, the house felt quiet in a good way. Months later, I saw her outside a grocery store. She looked smaller. Not physically, emotionally. Like life had drained the arrogance out of her. She spotted me and froze. For a moment, I saw something in her face, regret, maybe. Or fear. She approached slowly, one hand resting on her stomach, now unmistakably pregnant. Her voice was raw. His not coming to appointments. His saying his broke. I stared at her, letting the silence stretch until she felt it. She whispered, "I didn't think he'd do this to me." I nodded once. Neither did I. She swallowed hard. "Do you hate me?" I considered it. Then I said, "I don't feel close enough to you to hate you anymore." The words hit her like a slap. She blinked rapidly. "I'm sorry." I believed she was sorry. Just not sorry enough to undo it. I said quietly, "I hope you build a life that doesn't depend on taking what belongs to someone else." Then I walked past her. And I didn't look back. The divorce finalized on a Tuesday. No dramatic courtroom scene. No screaming. Just signatures, finality, and a quiet, satisfying click as the chapter closed. When I left the building, the air felt different. Lighter. I sat in my car, hands on the wheel, And I thought about the night he announced his baby like a trophy while Vivian sat there pretending her shame was romance. I thought about the way they expected me to break. And then I remembered the real shock everyone wanted from the title. It wasn't that I exposed them. It wasn't that I froze accounts or secured my home. It wasn't even that I made their betrayal public with documents instead of tears. The real shock was what I did after. I flourished. I took a trip alone, not as a statement but as a gift to myself. I redesigned my living room, replacing everything that felt like him. I stopped apologizing for being too much of anything. Too successful, too calm, too focused. And the last time I heard about him, it wasn't through gossip. It was through a friend who said, almost amused, "He told people you were cold. He said you were heartless." I smiled when I heard that. Because that meant he still didn't understand. I wasn't cold. I was clear. I wasn't heartless. I just stopped offering my heart to people who treated it like a resource to exploit. And if you want to know the cleanest revenge of all, the kind that doesn't rot your spirit, it's this. I didn't ruin him. I simply refused to save him from the consequences of ruining me. They thought my silence meant I had lost. But my silence was the sound of me building the ending they never saw coming. 6 months after the divorce, I received a promotion I'd been working toward for years. The same colleagues who'd witnessed Marcus's announcement at dinner now congratulated me with genuine respect. Nobody mentioned him. Nobody asked about the marriage. I'd become someone new in their eyes, not the wife who was betrayed, but the professional who thrived. I started volunteering at a women's shelter on weekends. Not because I wanted to share my story, but because I wanted to help women who felt trapped recognize their own power. I taught financial literacy classes. I helped them understand property rights. I showed them how to document everything. And every time I saw a woman's face change, when she realized she had more control than she thought, I felt something heal inside me. One evening, a woman approached me after class. She was shaking, holding a folder of bank statements. "Marcus has been hiding money," she whispered. I didn't know what to do. I looked at her and said gently, "Now you do." She started crying. Not from sadness. From relief. Because someone had finally told her that her instincts were right, that she wasn't crazy, that she deserved better. I handed her Andrea's card and said, "You're stronger than you think." She gripped my hand. "How did you get through it?" I thought about that question for a long moment. Then I said, "I stopped waiting for someone to save me. I became my own rescue." She nodded, wiping her eyes. As I drove home that night, I thought about Marcus and my former friend. I didn't know where they were. I didn't care. Their story was no longer connected to mine. I'd cut that thread the moment I walked out of the restaurant, the moment I documented instead of screamed, the moment I chose precision over pain. And what I'd learned was this: the best revenge isn't destruction. It's becoming so whole that their absence doesn't leave a hole. I pulled into my driveway and looked at my house. My house, legally and completely mine. The lights were on inside. I'd left them on for myself, a small act of care that used to feel silly but now felt sacred. I walked inside and kicked off my shoes. The space smelled like vanilla candles and fresh laundry. Everything was exactly where I wanted it. No compromises. No tension. No walking on eggshells around someone else's mood. Just peace. I made dinner for one and ate slowly, savoring every bite. Then I curled up on the couch with a book I'd been meaning to read for months. And somewhere in the middle of chapter 3, I realized something that made me smile. I was happy. Not the loud, performative kind of happy that requires an audience. The quiet, steady kind that comes from knowing you survived something that could have destroyed you, and you came out stronger. They thought the shock would be my breakdown. They thought the story would end with me bitter and broken. But the real shock, the one they never saw coming, was that I didn't just survive. I thrived. And the sound of my silence wasn't defeat. It was the sound of me planning everything.